Well, this is Guns, Knives, Watches, and what we have in front of us, we have two different types of hexamine tablets. We have the Coghland tablets, and then we have the Esbit tablets. Now, the Coghland tablets are 7 grams. The Esbit tablets are 14. So basically, 2 Coghlands equals 1 Esbit. But the two fuels, because they're manufactured by 2 different companies, are going to have a little bit different mixture. There might have a little bit, one might be more pure, one might be less pure. But the major difference between the two is form factor and how in which they're packaged. We all know that hexamine, if you let it get in a really hot environment, something like that, you're really going to need it in a container because it's going to sweat and it's just going to act very, very bad. Stuff you do not want all over your pack or all over your stuff, which is why the Esbits are actually individually packed, and that's one of the things in which you're paying for when you buy the Esbits. These Esbits come in at about $6, and I don't know how much the Coghlands are because I've never actually purchased them. I've always used the Esbit, but the Coghlands came with this 4-dog stoves. This is the titanium Bushcooker LT3 from 4-dog stoves. And as you remember from the last test, what I did was I took 2 Coghlands and heated 4 cups of water and just saw what 14 grams of hexamine would do. I also checked the pot for any type of just residue, that type of thing. Because the 4-dog stove, because of its design, has a secondary burn, and that secondary burn is supposed to make a cleaner burn and keep your gear a little bit cleaner, so you have less problem out in the woods. But more importantly, it increases the efficiency. So when you increase the efficiency, you also burn off more of the gases, you burn off more of the stuff, and you shouldn't have as much residue on your actual pots. One great thing about the 4-dog stove Bushcooker LT is it basically acts similar to a windscreen around the actual hexamine. Now you can use, as I went over before, you can use alcohol in this pan. This is a pretty damn big pan. You can use a lot of alcohol in there. And then you also can use biomass. So if you carry these Esbits, you can carry the whole box. Why? Because you can burn the box in the 4-dog stove and get a little bit of tinder, this, that, or the other. The way I'll probably be using this the majority of the time is using the hexamine to actually start the fire instead of using alcohol, because I have to have stuff in basically a temperature. I can't have a liquid. I can't take a certain volume of a liquid, but I can take a solid just because of work requirements, this, that, or the other. So the Coghlands may be something that you might want to look into because they're just 7 grams a piece. Now, the Esbits you can just break in half. And we all know, as we look back in school and this, that, or the other, that the size of an object, the ratio of internal volume to surface area changes. If a big object has less surface area compared to its volume, a smaller object has more surface area compared to its volume, and the ratios basically change. Now, these two are going to burn totally different just because of the form factor. The only way to get them to do something similar to each other is to break the actual Esbit in half, and thus increasing the surface area and increasing the burn time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the actual Esbit together and see how it works. Now, in the previous test, our water. Now, why this test isn't valid and why the two tests really can't be compared, I'm not using the same measuring cup. Now this is 4 cups of water, or basically a little over 4 cups of water, basically under a liter. We're at 65.6 degrees. I think we were at 71 degrees on the other one, and I don't remember. I haven't need to watch the damn video. But what we're going to do is we're going to take an Esbit out of here, open the package. Let's see if I can do it here on film, man. Now our room temperature right now is about 62.7, and those are degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to basically, there's a few other variations in this test that make it kind of invalid. I'm just going to light this puppy up, man. And I'm going to set her down in there without it going out. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. I'm trying to hug the camera here, and that's just not good, man. Of course, we've got that lit. We're going to put our Moore's pot on here, which is a 1.8 liter pot. We're going to try to not set off the fire alarms. Now, if you can see, actually, that hexamine is actually burning. Another reason this test isn't as valid is because I'm going to put the actual I'm going to put the windscreen on it. Now, do we need that windscreen on there? Probably not. And I should have timed it in the other one, this, that, or the other. And I'm kind of doing this kind of impromptu. But I'll put my stakes through here, which I should have done previously, instead of talking about volumes and this, that, or the other. Of course, all this metal right now is getting kind of hot. But we're just going to see how this form factor of hexamine with the Esbit actually performs, compared to this Coghland's. And we're also going to basically sit there and see if we're not going to set off the fire alarm. Looking down in there, you can see the actual flames are lapping up onto the side of the pot. It's tending to do it more on this side. That's probably because of the way in which I set it up. Try and kind of move you back a little bit, kind of get a picture of the setup. Now, this Moore's pot, of course, is the aluminum Moore's pot. Got it from 4 Dog Stoves. Got this one from 4 Dog Stoves. And, or I got it from the Pathfinder store, or Wilderness Self-Reliance Outfitters, I don't know. But it has a titanium windscreen. If you buy the Moore's pot with this biomass cooker, and you get the windscreen, you can get the Moore's pot for 20 bucks. It's not a bad setup when you buy it all together. The stakes basically just raise this thing up, keeping the heat around the edge of the pot. And as I said, we're going to try to not catch this thing on fire. I don't want to burn my house, nor do I want to set off the fire alarm, because the firemen will definitely come. That's one thing when you're doing personal security and you're doing those type of alarm systems. You're going to need to make sure that you not only have a wired connection to an actual monitoring station or a way of it communicating, you also need to have a wireless. In my area, we just changed all of the alarm systems over to a 3G type alarm system, with the old 3G phones. Well, alarm systems, mainly the way they're installed and the way they've been done, were 2G. And we've upgraded mine to a 3G setup just so that I get better reception, I get more towers connecting, and we get better response time. because the 2G is being phased out. Make sure if you have an alarm system on your house that you keep that up to code. If it's one that isn't being maintained by a company. My company is a very good company. It's probably not one of the brands that you know and hear and see advertisements on, but it's one of the best. Now, and I'm not doing a plug for it. I'm really not. But if you want to actually study alarm systems and this, there, or the other, more power to you. I'm basically going to pick this up real quick, and we're just going to look at the burn pattern. You can see the burn pattern is that swirling pattern in there, because of that fan type shape on the bottom is actually creating that vortex. The reason, and some people may not understand this, the reason fluid mechanics is so important because it controls basically everything in your life. You live in a fluid soup. You may not be aware of that, but gases, oxygen, hydrogen, everything, nitrogen in our atmosphere is actually in engineering is considered to be a compressible liquid. It's treated in equations the exact same way a liquid is, except it's compressible, where liquids are not, which is why hydraulics work. So, fluid mechanics is basically controlling the way in which this stove works. It controls the way, the wind outside. So whether you're a precision shooter or whether you're trying to cook a meal out on a campsite, fluid mechanics is really affecting your life. You may not be as aware of it as, but it really is a controlling factor of your life. Now, what we're basically going to do is try not to burn the world down. And as you can see, we're getting some scorching of the wood, which is fine. Looks like this thing's basically going out. And as I sat there and said, so we're going to need to take a reading of our water. .144 degrees. Now remember, so the Esbit increased the water temperature a little bit more than the Coghlan's, same 14 gram weight. And the reason that is, I would assume, is because it has less surface area, thus increasing the burn time. So we basically got a little slower burn. Now if we wanted to boil this water, we would of course use 2 or 28 grams of hexamine, and we'd be getting her done, man. Basically, we got a little bit of Esbit there, still there burning. But as you can sit there and see, this titanium stove, just because of the thermal properties of titanium, basically cools down very quick. Now, as I said, if you carried the Esbit and you carried them in this box, that'd be fine. That's your box now becomes tender. But this is Guns, Knives, and Watches with an impromptu test. We got a little bit more temperature increase with the Esbit than the Coghlan's. Is it substantial? Probably not. I need to go back and watch the other film and everything, but I believe what we basically just found out was there was basically a net increase somewhere. And I guess I should have written all this stuff down, but it seemed as though it was probably around 7-8 degrees more with the Esbit, and I would sit there and say that is only due to its form factor. If you were to break that in half what you basically would have gotten was a faster burn time, and you basically would probably have a little lower efficiency. But that's just, that's just speculation. So this is the Esbit 4-dog stoves, 14 grams. Of course, this is 4 cups or a little over 4 cups or 1 liter of water. Of course, as I said, the two tests are not, cannot be really compared to each other directly because I didn't use the same measuring device. I didn't weigh the water, which probably is what I should have done. So we may have found that even though the form factor is different, the burn time is slower. There's a possibility that the increase in temperature is possibly due to the fact that there might be a little less water in there. But normally I would have weighed it to the nearest gram if I was getting paid to do it. But we're not. We're just on YouTube. We're just going over some generalization. Your prices may vary, and that's just the way it goes. This is Guns, Knives, Watches. Have a good one.